Is Mitch McConnell dead? Is he on life support? Did his wife leave the country to avoid pulling the plug? Are Republicans scheming to avoid some sort of special election? What the hell is happening? Those are just some of the questions that are swirling around the internet because the senator's team has refused to basically provide any meaningful information about why he's been hospitalized for the last several weeks. Because on June 14th, you had a spokesperson for McConnell saying that the Kentucky senator had been admitted to the hospital but failed to give any additional details. And then about a week later, you had another spokesperson saying that McConnell wouldn't be voting in the Senate that week, but claimed that he was still working closely with staff on Senate business and Kentucky matters as he continues his recovery. But again, there was no mention of his condition or why he was even hospitalized in the first place. Right, and then last week you had multiple outlets obtaining emergency dispatch audio from an incident on June 14th. And there, responders could be heard providing CPR for an unconscious person who had undergone cardiac arrest at McConnell's DC residence. But McConnell's team refused to confirm those reports and just updated their statement to say that he was still in the hospital and that he continues to improve. And then today, when asked by a Huffington Post reporter if the senator was still conscious, his office refused to say, instead just providing the same statement as before, which then prompted them to run the headline, Mitch McConnell's office won't confirm if he's conscious. And as we've seen happen with just really so many other politicians who have kept their health a secret, the total lack of transparency, it's allowed wild rumors and speculation to go viral. You've got just so many people claiming that he's in a coma or brain dead, and that's why his team hasn't given specifics. With Laura Loomer claiming that a high-level source close to the White House tells her that, quote, Mitch McConnell is officially brain dead. He's not coming back. You had one woman who said she was a critical care nurse claiming that it was highly unlikely that he was participating in daily Senate business after suffering a cardiac arrest that required full resuscitation at his age and given his recent health events, adding that the statistical chances of a full recovery are slim to none and arguing that his constituents and the rest of America deserves the truth. You've also had a lot of people noting that his wife, Eileen Chao, went to China just 3 days after McConnell was hospitalized, a fact that just fueled even more theories. With that, including from Adam Cochran, who claimed if McConnell vacated before August 3rd cutoff, it'd be a special election and anyone can register as an independent. Right, noting this could include recently ousted Congressman Thomas Massie and arguing that a run from Massie would split the Republican vote, giving him, or maybe even the Dem, the chance at the plurality. But then also adding, if McConnell's seat is not vacated before the 3rd by legally stepping down or a signed death certificate, that it's too close to the next election and rules prevent a special election, which bars any new registrations at this point. And you had him then going on to claim that because McConnell's wife traveled to China after he was hospitalized, the next of kin isn't available to sign off, and so the bar for ending life support is extremely high. And you then had him concluding, so all they have to do is drag their feet until August 3rd, then tell you that he didn't make it, and in turn block Massie from disrupting an otherwise safe Republican seat. Right, and I mentioned that because that just went super viral. And so there's a few things we've got to unpack here. First of all, it appears that Cochran's referring to a few different Kentucky laws. Right, and the first is a bill the state's Republican legislature passed back in 2024 that stripped the governor of their appointment powers when there's a vacancy for a Senate seat, instead mandating that a special election take place. And the second is a provision of Kentucky's constitution that says if there's a vacancy less than 3 months before an election, the office will be filled by an appointment. But the issue there is that the 2024 bill got rid of the governor's appointment powers, and while some argue that violates the state constitution, it hasn't been tested yet. And to make matters even more confusing, the 2024 law is incredibly vague. It doesn't even specify exactly when the special election must be held. Instead, it just says that the governor needs to issue a proclamation declaring a special at least 56 days before it takes place, and candidates must file at least 49 days before. But there doesn't seem to be anything in the law that prevents a special election from happening within a set time frame of a general election. And so hypothetically, it seems like a special election could potentially be held after the general election, and the person who won would just hold the seat for the few weeks of that term. Now, whether or not that would actually happen, that ends up being a completely different matter, especially because the 2024 law is vague, it's totally untested, and potentially even illegal under the state constitution. And then making this extra unique is McConnell's already said that he's resigning at the end of his term, and the general this November, it's set to determine who's going to hold his old seat for the next 6 years. And to that point, when you take a step back from all the technicalities, there are also a number of logical flaws to Cochran's argument. One, even if there was a special election, the person who won would only hold the seat for a few months at the very most, so why would McConnell's team, the Republicans in general, or whatever powers that be, keep him alive just to prevent that from happening? Then there's also this idea that his wife might be in China so that she doesn't have to decide to pull him from life support, which would require her to stay out of the country for weeks. Now, he did have Cochran trying to explain his legal justifications in a lengthy tweet yesterday, but he also didn't really address some of the outstanding issues, and he still insisted that the August 3rd cutoff was legally relevant. But also, that was after his initial post went absolutely viral and was spread all over the platform. And you've seen plenty of people across the political spectrum echoing his claims, including those from the far right, like MAGA activist Kylie Jane Kremer, who posted on Twitter, "The rhinos in power can't afford for that to happen, which is why this whole situation feels like Weekend at Bernie's. Weeks have gone by with virtually no meaningful update on the condition of a sitting U.S. senator. The lack of transparency has been outrageous and has left people wondering whether he's being kept on life support or whether the full truth simply isn't being told. Has he already passed?" With her adding, "Something about this entire situation doesn't add up and the American people deserve answers." And at the very least, I will agree with that last part. The American people do deserve answers. We've seen this man freeze. We've seen this man just have unexplained injuries. This is unfortunately not a unique situation because there are just a lot of really old people in Congress who seemingly have health problems that we aren't privy to. And you can make arguments that, people are allowed to have their privacy, but when you represent the people and it's about you doing the fucking job, the American people deserve to know. Hey, while we're just throwing out conspiracy theories, let me do mine. Mitch McConnell's actually been dead for the last 8 years, and he's actually just been puppeteered since then by a mixture of nanorobots, AI, and the literal devil.